You're welcome to the Policy Council. My name is Okwemi Agbaje. In this edition, we talk about micro, small, and medium enterprises. We try to understand what they are. We try to understand their role in national economic development. We try to understand why they are important. And I speak to someone who works with SMEs and who understands their needs and their challenges. Enjoy the program. You're welcome back. It's still the Policy Council. My guest today he works with small and medium enterprises. He's the Executive Secretary of the Nigerian Association of Small and Medium Enterprises. He holds multiple first and second degrees in political science and international relations, international development. And for some time now, he's been the Executive Secretary of the National Association of Small and Medium Enterprises, NASME. Mr. A.K. Ubiji, you're welcome to the Policy Council.
Thank you very much, Ben.
Okay, so tell us about NASME. What's NASME? What does it do? Who are your members? And what are you trying to achieve?
Yeah, Ben, let me start from the first part of your question, who we are. The Nigerian Association of Small and Medium Enterprises, as the name implies, is an organization made up of micro, small, and medium enterprises in the country. But it does not mean that the membership is limited to only MSMEs. But there are also relevant stakeholders that are within the membership, like institutions, banks, parastatals, that have one thing or the other to do with SME development are also within the membership.
Okay, so can you mention some of these institutions?
Yeah, there are many of them, really. One of them is the Bank of Industry, which was one of the institutions that initiated the Central Bank of Nigeria.
SMIDAN?
No. SMIDAN is just a recent creation, 2003. The then Federal Ministry of Commerce, Industry and Trade. Then, Federal Ministry of Commerce and Industry then, but now, Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment. These were the three key institutions from the public sector that played a significant role in the evolution of the association with some private sector operators. The reason for it is that as at the time it started, it evolved in 1996, March 1996. There were other organizations like MAN, NASIMA, NASI, and all whatnot. It was realized that there was no organization catering for SMEs that are not within the manufacturing sector.
Okay. NASI was National Association of Small-Scale Industrialists. So they are MAN members, industrialists.
No. Yes, industrialists. They belong to, if you are not in manufacturing,
you couldn't be
exactly
a member of NASI.
But ours was created to accommodate those within the service sector. Even accountants, they're in the service area, even lawyers, business development providers, they are all there. They're not to talk of the big institutions, as I said, like government agencies like Raw Material Research and Development Council, FIRO in Lagos here, PRODA in Enugu. All these agencies, if you look at them and the way they operate, they make exactly for SME development in the country.
What do you define as SMEs? What is your cutoff by definition? Because I know that's one of the challenges and variations in definitions of SMEs. So what's your own definition?
I will just make it to be very simple and understandable. When you say SMEs, you just mean small, medium enterprises, but it's more than that. You are excluding the micro. So for micro, you talk of, I will just use two parameters to explain that. The number of employees. For micro enterprises, when you say an enterprise is micro, it has less than 10 employees. Then you also use asset base. Asset base excluding land and building. Then that asset base must be within the range of less than 10 million naira.
That's micro?
Micro. If you have less than 10 employees, then that's with regards to employees you have within your enterprise. And then asset base, excluding land and building, that is worth less than 10 million. You're a micro enterprise.
So what of small?
For small, you must, that's from 10 to 49 employees, less than 50 employees. You get the holding. And then with regards to asset base, less than 100 million.
What of medium?
Medium, you are talking of an enterprise that has less than 200 employees, asset base from 100 million and above.
Okay. And, well, small and medium enterprises.
After medium,
so the
large.
cutoff is the medium.
Exactly.
And that means less than. So overall, for you to be MSME, you must be
within this range.
Within this definition. Okay, let's take a short time out. Now we know what we're talking about, and then we'll talk about what you have found in NASME to be the major challenges of SMEs. We'll be right back. You're welcome back. I'm talking to Mr. A.K. Obiji. He's of the National Association of Small and Medium Enterprises, NASME. But he's telling us that NASME actually includes micro enterprises as well. Mr. Obiji, what would you say, in your experience and in the institutional memory of NASME, what are the critical challenges that MSMEs face in Nigeria?
They are really quite enormous. But this is not a public lecture, indirectly. But I'll use this forum to explain because
this has been for public enlightenment.
Absolutely. One major one is the issue of access to finance. It's a huge challenge. If you look at the Nigerian economy and the statistics released by the National Bureau of Statistics, there are about 17.2 million SMEs in the country. And out of this number, about 17 million are micro enterprises. It's just the 0.2
that are
exactly
small and medium.
You see the whole. I'm not telling you figures manufactured by NASME,
of course I know,
but figures given by the Bureau of Statistics. So the challenges they are facing are quite enormous. Access to finance, and if you have this huge number of enterprises not having good access to finance, then you know what it means.
It's a contributory factor to poverty.
That's one of them, because if they have access to finance, the multiplier effect is going to be quite enormous. It's going to help everybody. The citizens, the government, and even society, the larger world. But if you see what SMEs are doing in other parts, like China, then you can, bring that down home here to say that if this is done, this is what is going to happen.
Even the CBN's figures on private sector credit confirm, by and large, the exclusion of small businesses from credit. Sure. But what would you say, the microfinance sector, would you say that the introduction of that sector has helped? Is it helping? Is it helping ameliorate the situation regarding, because microfinance was supposed to provide credit to micro enterprises and maybe small enterprises, not even the medium-sized ones. But is it helping?
Look, firstly, the Central Bank of Nigeria had good intentions to create the MFBs. But in operationalizing that, in MFBs operating, that's another thing. How many of the micro enterprises have access to the funds with MFBs? One, the issue of interest rate is a huge challenge. And how many of them are willing to put money into the manufacturing sector? You see, what you see, I'm telling you based on my vintage position.
Of course.
A lot of these funds either go to people who are into trading or whatnot. Well, I'm not saying that trading activity is out of place. But if you really want something that will help the economy to grow, for God's sake, the manufacturing sector is very, very important. Because of the multiplier effect it's going to create. You understand? So that's a big problem. Now, the commercial banks, that's another challenge. How many of the SMEs have easy access to funds?
I think the commercial banks themselves will not even argue. They will admit that they are focused more towards importers, big businesses.
Interest rates is so, this is one of the things that scare the MSMEs out of place within the commercial banking services sector.
But they would. But you can't avoid paying interest. Everybody has to pay the cost of money.
Absolutely. But look at it this way: Development finance institutions, their interest rate is, a lot of them, their interest is less than 10%. That's single digit.
But that's why they're development finance institutions. They have some subsidies. They raise money from government. Maybe they get from multilateral agencies. They are not taking customer deposits at market rates and trying to lend. I will understand from the point of view of interest is why the commercial banks, for instance, may not be the optimal place for SMEs to borrow.
But at the same time, the commercial banks are not existing in the moon. They're existing in an environment. So if this environment is economically viable, it's going to impact on them positively. That's a very serious point we have to note. I'm not saying, if you ask the commercial, they will tell you, look, gentlemen, we are managing our shareholders' funds. We don't expect that they will throw away their shareholders' funds into the ocean. But for God's sake, you know, working with MSMEs requires a hands-on approach. Because it's like relationship between you and your medical doctor, your doctor. Your doctor works with you hand in hand. So at any point in time, I can tell you, hey, my friend, don't do this, don't do that. If you do this effect. This is the approach that is expected. From
lenders, from bankers,
to borrowers, and so on and so forth. So okay. Access to finance is not just the only issue. There are many issues.
There are many others. Let's take a short time out, and then we'll talk through some of the other constraints that SMEs face. We'll be right back.
My name is Laide Awoyemi. I live for Lagos. You see as our new Lagos just defined the go. Good thing good though. To go market now, no hard at all. Just pay. Sit down inside BRT bus. Small time, you don't reach where they go. Hospital call, the full ground. And for me and my pikin where I just born, treatment now free. You look left, you look right. Them they build new roads, new hospitals, new schools, new things everywhere. Everywhere they shine, gone. We thank God though. But come on, I hear saying that this tax money where they pay, and then they use do all these good things. Me, I they pay my own tax too. Say they pay your own.
Pay your tax. It's your civic responsibility. It's your duty. It's the law.
You're welcome back. It's still the Policy Council. My guest is the Executive Secretary of NASME, the Nigerian Association of Small and Medium Enterprises, Mr. Eke Obiji. Mr. Obiji, you've spoken to us about one of the most critical constraints, access to finance, but what are the others?
Yeah, as I said earlier, there are quite a lot of them. Infrastructural challenges. Power is a major one. A lot of our homes today are powered with generating sets and so on and so forth. And if you really want to run an efficient economic system, power supply is very critical. And
do you have information, scientific information, or even projections from your members about the average cost of power as a component of their cost structure?
For God's sake, I can tell you the issue of power have even made some of them to close shop. I can give you one big example. A member that was formerly in Lagos and relocated to one of the south states, Edo State to be more specific. It's into polyethylene and plastic production. He had the generating set. He had a very good power system at the beginning. He has been there for over 20 years. But when this power problem started, the man had to go and purchase a generating set for nearly 20 million naira. Wow. And to repair the generating set, you cannot get anybody around the Edo axis. Those that can repair will only come from Lagos. And they had to make arrangements for their transportation, to house them in Benin, for them to be going from Benin to where the factory is located. So if you put all this cost together, this is somebody who had, I just want to give you, paint a scenario to you so that you understand what we're talking about. Somebody who had about 45 staff. At the end of the day, the team reduced to 4. That's security people manning the place. Currently, I think it's only 1 remaining.
So the factory has closed down?
Absolutely. You understand what I'm telling you? That's the problem of power. If that man were to be in operation, and the 45 people, or maybe more, are employed, do you know how many people have been removed from the street? There are many instances, if I start giving you, there are many of them. You understand what I'm saying? The issue of multiple taxation is there. In some areas, the local government is collecting, the state is collecting. So a lot of the SMEs are overtaxed. And what we're saying that if you really want them to operate very well, like the new ones, you can give a tax holiday as obtainable in other parts of the world. Maybe 5 years tax holiday. By then, they would have consolidated. And because they are making serious contribution to the economy, maybe even the rate you use for them could be reduced and not be harmful to the operations. You understand? The issue of marketing, if legal regulatory issues, if they tell you what they are going through with NAFDAC, I'm just giving you an instance. Those of them that are into food and beverages, say before somebody that just starting, you say you should pay nearly $500,000 to get a particular permit to produce something. But this is you don't know how he even got his money. Are you encouraging the person to be in operation? So there are not so many marketing. Some of our products could as well be sold outside the shores of Nigeria. But if we encourage our people to compete globally, but if
we cripple them, we hobble them.
Can they be competitive?
Costs with all sorts of corruption.
Exactly.
With all sorts of
Would they be competitive?
Challenges.
They can be competitive. Then another point which I want to, because if we just put it the way we are putting it, you just think that everything is with government and environment. There is something that has been affecting SMEs that is totally absent. Even though it may be operational, but it's not obvious. But now we're trying to make it very prominent. The issue of credit history. This is one of the big challenges we have. That if you want to access credit through any financial institution, you should have a good credit history, as obtainable in other parts of the world. As I'm talking to you, we have, if you read the guidance of yesterday, Thursday, yesterday, and the last week, Tuesday, you would have seen our advert. We are running a program on credit bureaus and access to credit for SMEs, coming up Tuesday next week at the Sheraton Hotel and Towers. So that will draw me to the ears of those in the financial services sector and SMEs that good credit history is very, very important. But if you have good credit history, you'll be able to assess finance by tabling the good history you have. No financial institution that will see it that will say, no, you are not credit worthy. But if you don't have a good credit history, it also affects you.
Short out of financial markets. Let's take another time out. I'll be back for my final segment with Mr. A.K. Obiji. We're discussing the problems and challenges of the SMEs in Nigeria. We'll be right back. You're welcome to my final segment with Mr. A.K. Obiji, Executive Secretary of NASME, the Nigerian Association of Small and Medium Enterprises. Mr. Obiji, let's maybe we're taking something for granted. And so for the benefit of our viewers, why do you argue that SMEs are important? What's the role of SMEs in economic development? Why do we need to bother about the fortunes of SMEs?
Very, very important, Pemi. Firstly, I'm sure you are used to these words, that SMEs constitute the engine of economic growth. When they say something is an engine of something, then it means it's very vital. SMEs constitute the engine of economic growth. Why? The issue of employment. How many people will public sector people employ? But if you look at statistics, you see that SMEs employ more people. Because you are one SME, you employ 2-3 people. Then if there are 10 of you, employ 3 or 5, see the multiplier effect. So if this sector is viable, there will be serious employment generation. There will also be wealth creation. Today we are talking of poverty. If you want to alleviate poverty in Nigeria, then SMEs are very, very important. That means more hands will be employed. The security challenges we are facing today will be highly minimized. Because some of us, we've traveled very well. We go to foreign countries, we say, you can move about in the night, nobody will disturb you. Because there are societies that be able to address some of these pockets of challenges that remove these security risks and other vices in the society. So if SMEs are functioning, to the optimum in Nigeria, most of these social vices we are talking about, security challenges, and so on and so forth, will be drastically reduced. Look at the issue of the security challenges we're having up north.
It's because there's no employment.
I don't know if you read the guidance of yesterday. Look at the front page. The number of people, in quote, Fulani herdsmen that attacked a particular part of the north. They were showing them with their guns, bows, and arrows. And look at their age range. They are mostly young people. If they are gainfully employed, we don't have time to do that. So SMEs, they are very, very important. Now, I'm not even talking of the value chain addition. No particular industry will say that they provide everything they need, raw materials and so on and so forth. But if all of them are working very, very well, for example, the Nigerian breweries we are talking about today in Nigeria, which is a big conglomerate, it's not everything they are providing for themselves. There are people who are supplying them. People in the food and beverage industry, and so on and so forth. So some of them rely on the services of MSMEs. You understand? So as they are working, these MSMEs are also working. So you can see the chain effect. Everybody is busy working.
What do you, I mean, I'm sure as a NASME, you have a fair set of expectations from government. What are these expectations? What do you want government to do?
Quite a lot. First of all, top of priority is to address the issue of power. It's very, very important. That's number one. Two is to address the issue of access to finance. The commercial banks, they are owned by shareholders. They are private sector driven. So if you rely on them so much, you are going to run into problems. But the government can intervene or assist in the area of intervention, like what the CBN did under Sanusi. There were a series of intervention funds which were channeled through the Bank of Industry. It could be for SMEs, it could be in the textile industry, it could be in the aviation sector, just like that. Such interventions. Then there is something that is missing in Nigeria, which we've been advocating for, the creation of an SME bank. It's there in India. That's a specialized bank focusing on SMEs. But they understand their peculiar.
And we tried to do something called People's Bank in Nigeria too.
But you know what happened to it. You understand? So we expect the government to address, especially the area of infrastructure. What are those infrastructural challenges that are impeding or affecting MSME development?
Government recently launched NEDEP and NIRP.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have some preliminary comments because these are just starting on those.
Absolutely. You understand what NEDEP means? National Enterprise Development Program, NEDEP. The Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Mr. Olusegun Aganga, really came up with that initiative March 2013, which is a very good initiative because the government have realized that SME development, if it's left the way it is, it will not touch the grassroots level. And when you talk of the issue of unemployment, poverty, and so on and so forth, look at the rural areas. In Nigeria, we have about 774 local governments. How many industries are there? Most of the industries we have are urban-based. So NEDEP, basically speaking, is to address the issue of MSME development through the rural, local government areas. Yes. The issue of NEDEP was borrowed from the Japanese experience of OVOP, one village, one product. Now in Nigeria it's called one local government, one product, all up. The idea is that in every local government we have in the country, that local government should come up with a particular product. It has competitive advantage over others. If they can focus on that and well-funded, then they will have...
And NASME in principle supports...
I will support that, absolutely. Okay. Because if even the SMEs we are talking about, how many of them are in the rural areas? Now, but they will now bring them down to rural... And then when they are there, there will be employment opportunities. There will be poverty alleviation. So we totally support that. In addition, NEDEP talks about having an SME council at the federal level, which is a good initiative to be chaired by Mr. President, state level, and now as I'm talking to you, some states have even established their own SME councils. Edo, Ogun State, Osun, Kano State, they've established their own SME councils. And now, Last year, 15th of August 2013, the CBN under Sanusi set up 220 billion MSME Development Fund. And that would basically address the issue of NEDEP at the financing of the NEDEP program.
Okay, so there's hope for SMEs.
We pray, but we really have to put a lot of action into it. Yes. And it's not just a government thing. There should be a collaboration. All the stakeholders, BMOs, the government, state government, local government, should all put hands on deck to actualize this dream.
Excellent. Well, Mr. Obiji, thank you for coming on the Policy Council.
Thank you very much, baby.
We'll be right back.
Government wants our city to become a mega modern city. And so, government is providing modern markets for us to carry out our business. Now, this requires money. So, we need to pay our taxes to help government to help us. I pay my taxes. I hope you've paid yours. I pay. Pay your tax. It's your civic responsibility. It's your duty. It's the law.
As my guest said, MSMEs indeed, micro, small and medium enterprises, are indeed the engine of national economic development. If you grow SMEs, you address poverty, you address employment, and you address inequality, and you make growth and its benefits more widespread across the economy. And he has highlighted some of the major challenges faced by this type of institutions: finance, infrastructure, power, the cost of doing business, and an environment that essentially snuffs life out of small businesses. We cannot continue, and we cannot grow, and we cannot have equitable development in that kind of environment. We must refocus policy on the needs of micro, small, and medium enterprises rather than on the needs of a few large businesses. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time.